How's it going, everyone? It's B Thoughts on Thoughts. And yeah, so I was just kind of playing with an idea um, that I was having or that I was letting in, and I recorded a voice note which is about half an hour long. But I thought, you know what, let me put this down on a video where it's just easier to communicate or easier for people to, you know, consume it. I guess consume my idea. But anyway, so what it comes down to is that as humans, we've got three stages of being, essentially. So there's kind of what I call it centers around the having stage, right? So it's the pre-having stage, it's the having stage, and then it's the being stage. So starting from the top, the pre-having stage is basically like when you're a kid, when you're young and you haven't really developed an ego and you don't really know, what's what, or you don't, you just live, you just kind of live in the moment, you live day to day, you don't really need anything, you don't really have, strong opinions on anything, you're just caught up in the kind of day-to-day life of, just living, like you just, every day is kind of a bit of an adventure, and everything's new, and you haven't really thought about anything in any kind of deep way. This is also seen in animals. So animals kind of, they just live. They don't really, worry about things, or they don't need anything. Like they are just what they are, right? And that's the key thing. It's like as a dog or something like that, you are a dog. Like you don't have to do something to be a dog. Right, so that kind of takes me on to the next stage, which is the biggest one, and it's going to be the biggest one because we're all caught up in it. It's the having stage. So at this stage, which is, I would say, we're all at to a certain extent. If you're probably over the age of 10 or 12 or something like that, you're probably in this having stage, and you probably will be in this having stage unless you really look at it, and really become conscious of it. You're going to be at this having stage until you die. Like if you're lucky, you may realize something just before you die. But for most people, you're going to die in a having stage. That might sound bleak, but you don't even know what it is yet. So what that means is that, what it means is that you've built upon the initial stage, the pre-having stage. So you've said, or you've been convinced, or something's happened where that's not enough for you, right? So it's not enough that you just are. It's not enough that you are good enough. It's not enough that you're complete as you are. What you need in the having stage is something more, something else. You need an identity. You need to have stuff. You need to become the definition of a human. And that's the thing, is that the definition is quite fluid. It could be anything. It's whatever you decide it to be, right? So you're in a stage of you need stuff to be who you are. You build up an identity. You build up an ego, right? So and it could be based on anything. It could be based on the music you like. It could be based on the food you eat. It could be based on your political, which way you lean politically. And what we tend to do is we make an identity of all these things. So we say, I'm a Democrat, or I'm Labour, for example. You don't say, oh, I'm interested in Labour's ideas, or I find them interesting, or whatever. You say, I'm this. And what this means is that you take that standpoint, and you think that is what it is. That's your best solution, for example, to any kind of problem. It's like, I'm this, so everyone else should be this. But the issue with it is that, because by definition, anything you are in this stage is an act. You're in a sense, you're pretending to be this. No matter how much ingrained it is, you're not coming from a place of being. You're coming from a place of, you need this, you need that. And what happens is that when you're in that, every kind of action that you're doing or every kind of belief you adopt, or every kind of mode of thinking or whatever, is an attempt to escape having. So if you notice, the reason why people feel, you know, a big thing you get, you know, obviously there's a big thing with mental illness in this day and age, but a big thing you get is that people will say, oh, I don't feel complete. Like if you look at it, like everyone's always trying to get somewhere, right? Everyone's always got this big plan of like, you know, I'm going to be rich, you know, I'm going to get married, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go traveling, I'm going to blah, 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 whatever. So everyone's trying to get somewhere. So if you're trying to get somewhere, what you're saying is that where you are now is not valid. It's not good enough, right? So you're trying to get somewhere because you're trying to escape this feeling that you're in, because it's a feeling of lack. It's a feeling of not enough. It's a feeling of scarcity. You know, there's lots of different models that talk about this. So if you look at, like, you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, at the top is self-actualization. So that's what we're talking about. You know, the next stage is being. So that's being yourself fully, is self-actualization. Before that, it's all this stuff of trying to get stuff. So, you know, I said initially it's like survival needs, like you need food, you need shelter, whatever, and then it's like love, and it's this and it's that. But the point is that we're all striving to get to self-actualization. Like self-actualization is the top of the tree. It's like it's not a thing that you can even have, right? But we feel that we can have it. So if you think about it, like, you know, they call it the rat race. So you can think about it in a way where we're all in a maze. We're all trying to get out. Like if I'm talking to you now, there's something you believe that is going to help you do that. So it could be you think that you're going to find that perfect person that's going to help you be complete, right? Or it could be that you're going to find this perfect job, or that you're going to make enough money, or, you know, or maybe you're going to work something out spiritually, or maybe, you know, I don't know, whatever. You know, you're going to be the best religious person you could be, or, you know, the best new age spiritual person you could be, or whatever it is. You think, the point is, in this moment in time, what you are, what you believe you are, is not enough, right? So, and this is just because of the concept of you think that you can obtain yourself. Like you can have stuff, you can have identities, you can have beliefs, you can have all this stuff, and that will make you what you are. So you're caught in this maze where you're trying to get out. So if you think about it like a rat caught in a maze, you're caught in this maze and you're trying everything you can do to get out. So you're taking one way that says, listen, if you find a perfect person, that's the way out. The way out is that way. And then you go down that way and then it doesn't work. And then you're like, oh shit, I just spent 10 years going down that path and it didn't work. So you might, but maybe you'll say, oh, okay, but it's still down that path. I still need to go. I just need to find the better person. And you keep going down that path and you never get there. Or, you know, you go the job way, or you go the spiritual way, or you go whatever way. And the point is that the maze actually doesn't have an exit. There's no exit. Once you're in the maze, you're in the maze. But I'll tell you, but if you're smart, you'll think about how you can get out. But I'll get to that in the being stage, because that's how you get out. So you're stuck in. So what you can do, what some people might do, maybe, you know, people kill themselves. Imagine people kill themselves. Suicide is just it's an amazing phenomenon. I completely understand it, because I've been at stages where I felt so anxious, so depressed and stuff like that, where I can get the thinking behind it. You know what I'm saying? I can understand it. I can understand why people do it. But you know, it's such a crazy thing to think that someone would take their own life. Someone would actually kill themselves, take their own life. And that is because they cannot find a way out. They cannot escape this maze. They're stuck in a maze and they cannot escape it. And you know, you see a lot of the time where, you know, people like Robin Williams, or I was going to say Gary Speed, but maybe a lot of people don't know who he is. But these people, seemingly on the surface, they have everything. You know, they've got the job they want, they've got a wife they want, they've got money, they've got, you know, fame, everything that you've been told that you would want, and they still kill themselves. So that makes no sense on that level, on the having level. It makes literally no sense. Like, why would you kill yourself when you've got everything you need to be complete? What else do you want? What else can you have? Even if you say, even if someone who's, you know, most powerful person, say like, you know, Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates or someone like this or whatever, who are really at the top of what, you know, you could be in this stage. And you know, if someone like that said they were unhappy, which is along the lines of suicide, obviously it's not as deep, but people will be shocked, like, how can you be unhappy? Like, you've got everything, you've changed the world, what more do you want? And the point is that they're still in the maze. They're still stuck in that maze. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they're still stuck. It doesn't matter how much you got. Like, there's no exit, and that's what we really need to, you know, get your head around, is that there's no way out. Actually, there's no way out. No matter how much you get, no matter how much material stuff, how much you get, how much pleasurable experiences, whatever. Although they, you know, that can be debatable. But no matter how many things you obtain, how many ideas, how logical your ideas are, how many people listen to you, it doesn't matter. Like, there's no way out. There's no way out of that maze. But anyway, so bringing it back, like, you know, in a stage of having, just to compare it to, say, like an animal, you know, because like I said, they're pre-having, so they haven't transcended it, but they haven't gone into it. They haven't gone into the maze. You know, they're not even aware that the maze exists, in fact, which it doesn't. But so if you look at, like, say, let's take a male lion, for example, and compare them to a male human being, right? So a male lion is just a male lion, right? It's defined as a male lion because it is a male lion. So whatever it does in the context of being a male lion is what a male lion does, right? So you could say, okay, maybe and you know, as humans, maybe we study the behavior and we say, oh, look, like, majority of lions do this, some lions do this, some lions do that, but the common denominator is that they're all male lions. Like, that's never in question. It's never questioned whether they're enough of a male or enough of a lion or whatever. Like, if they roar, they're a male lion. If they don't roar, they're a male lion. Whatever they choose to do. So I don't know how self-aware they are as animals, but they are just what they are. Like, there's no thought behind it. They don't think, oh, okay, today I'm gonna act like this type of male lion, or I'm gonna be like this, or I'm gonna have this opinion or that opinion, or whatever. Whatever they feel to do, they're gonna do it. If they want to sleep for 20 hours, they'll do that. If they want to eat, if they want to have sex, whatever they want to do, they're gonna do it, and it's gonna be seen as something a male lion does, right? Now, if you look at it, like, I've got another example for you as well, but if you look at it like, you know, male humans, for example, okay, we're back. Yeah, so if you look at, like, male humans, there's all these kind of definitions around what a male human should be. So some people say, oh, a real man is someone who goes out, chops wood, does this, does that. No, wait, a real man is someone who provides for their family, has a job, wears a suit. No, wait, a real man is a construction worker, or is this, or is that. Or a real man believes this, or cares about their women, or cares about their children, or whatever. Or a real man is more masculine, plays sports, blah, blah, blah. So essentially what we've said is that, as humans, we've said, oh, this is what a real man is. So the implication is that if you don't do this, you're not a real man, right? So that leads to the thing of, like, manhood or masculinity has to be obtained. You have to have it. You can't be it, because if you could be it, you could be whatever you want and you're a man. Like, a lion's not thinking, oh, I need to dress like this, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. A lion is a lion. It's defined as that, and it is that. There's nothing else there, right? So as a man, your manness should be defined by you being a man, right? As in being yourself, being whatever's true to you, right? So, but humans mistake it as in we have to become something. So you become a man when you get married, or you become a man when you get your first drink, or you become a man. Nah, like it's not that. You are. That's the real you. Is that you are what you are, and that's the problem. Is that people can't see that. Another example is like if you look at the Bible, the Christian Bible, the story of Adam and Eve. If you look at it like before they eat the apple, so they're in the garden. Everyone knows the story. They're in the garden. God's made them. Garden of Eden. Garden's beautiful. You know, everything makes sense. Like everything's easy. Like food's all there. And then the snake offers Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge. She eats from it. She gives some to Adam, which was a bit of a dick move. Probably shouldn't have done that. And so they both eat the apple, and they gain knowledge, which is to say they gain self-awareness. Because as soon as they eat the apple, they can see that they're naked, which is to say they gain self-awareness. So now they get into the state of, potentially they could get into the state of having that we're talking about. So they moved on from pre-having, and now they moved into having. And because of that, because God has said to them, listen, you don't need to worry about all this stuff, which is basically saying to them, you don't need to worry about getting into this maze. Like, I know it seems exciting and you get all this stuff, but there's nothing there. Like, everything's here, everything's in the Garden of Eden. And what you could say is that's similar to, so obviously he kicks them out of Garden of Eden, you know, go on your way, sort this maze shit out, you want to have knowledge, self-awareness, go on, do your thing, innit? So if you look at it, it's the same thing. It's like when we're kids, we're in the Garden of Eden. We can do what we want, every day's adventure, like, you know, and then we're not really given a choice, but we're told that, no, wait, you can't stay there. You can't be a kid forever. You need to get into this maze and sort your life out. Sort your shit out, man. Come on, you know, five now, son, get out. But you need to sort your life out. So that moves you, that catapults you into the stage of having. So, you know, it's crazy. So then you get stuck in a maze. So, all right, so another thing you might think is that, but wait a minute, there's people that they've got all that stuff and they're happy, like they're cool, whatever. So there's a few ways to kind of live, I guess, in the having stage. And to live in the having stage, you have to delude yourself to some extent, right? So if you've made up an identity or opinions or, you know, ideologies or whatever, there's something in you where it doesn't seem true. Like every ideology or every idea, every opinion, all this, it always has holes in it. There's always arguments against it, right? But it's just that if you attach yourself to one, you argue in spite of those, right? So even if it's religion, you know, whatever. So to some extent, if you want to buy into it fully, and when I say ideology, I'm even talking about the kind of liberalism ideology we have now, or individualism and that kind of thing, which is to say that the individual is king, the customer's always right. You know, liberalism, technically you're free to do whatever you want, kind of. You know, it's really about the freedom of man, kind of, but an idea, kind of like an idea of it. So even that, that's what I'm questioning also. That's an ideology. Science is an ideology. Religion obviously is an ideology. All this kind of stuff, they're all ideologies, and we all buy into them to a certain degree. So there's a few ways you can deal with being in the having stage, or cope with being in the having stage. One is that you fully delude yourself that, oh, this is the best ever. And I'm not... What I'll say is also, it doesn't have to be completely black and white. You're either in a having stage or in a higher stage. It could be you get glimpses of the higher stage and that makes you happy, like you live for that. You know what I mean? So, you know, there could be moments in your life where you get into the higher stage. So it could be, you know, usually for a lot of people it's when their child's born, or when something amazing happens, or it could be even something like seeing a sunset and their mind's silent for that moment, you know, or anything that gets you in the flow. Maybe it's, you know, something creative like music or whatever. But really, these are just glimpses of being, actually, or glimpses of being in a flow state, as people say. So these are just glimpses, and to be honest, these glimpses are so powerful that people can almost revolve their life around just getting glimpses of being. So, people will save up all year to maybe go to an amazing country, or have an amazing view, something different, and that will give them that sense of being, that just inner peace. Even if it's just for 1 second, they'll save up all year to do that. So that lets you know how powerful the higher stage is, and how much we actually want to get there, right? We want to get there so bad, like even just a glimpse of it, and we're there. Like, why would you have any hobbies? Why would you enjoy anything? You enjoy, if you enjoy playing football, if you enjoy playing sports, running, going to the gym, whatever. These all potentially can give you glimpses of being. That's why a lot of the times it can be addictive, because you just want to do it. You just want to be there. It's funny actually, the film Avatar, with the the blue aliens that kind of live. Actually, they live in being. That's a good. It might be pre-being. I'm not sure. Might be pre-having. I'm not sure, but they live in a state of being, and that's why people literally got addicted to that film. As in, they'll watch it over and over again because they wanted to be there. They wanted to live that. You know what I'm saying? And why is that so seductive? Is because it offers a way out. It offers a true way of being. You know what I mean? Imagine just getting addicted to the same film, not even a series. You're watching the same film, but people wanted to be that thing. They wanted to, and also it's clever, the film, because it offers you a way in. Because you're the guy, you're the human, and he becomes an avatar. So it offers you a way into that. So it's even more, because it becomes almost like impossible. So that's how addictive this state can be, or how important it is, because it's authenticity as well, because that state is very authentic. But anyway, I'll talk about that state in a second. So if you want to stay in the having stage, ways to cope are like, you can really delude yourself, so you can really entrench your views and become dogmatic and say there's no other way that the world can be other than Christian, or other than scientific, or other than this, or other than that. And these are dogmatic beliefs because you're scared, because you can see subconsciously there's questions that you got, but you don't even want to hear the questions, you don't want to hear the answers. You're like, this is what it is, this is reality, this is all I can deal with. So that's kind of like the extreme of delusion. But there can be subtle delusions. Like, to even be in the having stage, we have to delude ourselves to some extent. So we have to believe that this is real, or that's real, or that's kind of real, or whatever. There's some delusion. There's just extremes of the delusion. The other way you can deal with it, no, I think that's it. I think that's the best way. Or you could, I guess, you don't have to have a strong belief. You can just kind of put your head in the sand and be like, oh, okay, this is what it is, and not think about it. So you could, put your head in the sand kind of thing, not think about it, not worry about it. And that's probably a good way. Like, you'll probably be quite happy to do that. You'll be happy to do that, It's not necessarily a bad way. Or you can do the thing where you just try and get as many experiences of being as possible, right? So you're not fully bought in, that you've still got to do the day-to-day stuff, but you're aware that you feel great when you go mountain climbing in the Andes or something. So you try and do that, you maximize that and try and do that as much as you can. So that's a good way to do it, actually. Like, that's a good way to start getting out of it, out of the having stage. And then obviously, like, with the having stage as well, it's like there's arguments become possible in the having stage, because for us to have an argument, if you're in a different stage, you might think, oh, look, all right, so say you're trying to work out issue, let's say Brexit, that's a good one. You're trying to work out Brexit, so you'll say, oh, okay, there's reasons why Britain should leave, there's reasons why Britain should stay. let's kind of weigh it up. Let's look at, you know, the best examples. And the point is, you're not attached to either argument or either side of the fence. You're not attached to it. You don't, you know, it doesn't say anything about you. But if you look at it with Brexit, how we've experienced it is that you know, straight away you had, you know, labels popping up. So you had Brexiteers or Remainers and Leavers, and then insults for them Ramonas and all that kind of stuff. And immediately there was identities built out of what side you voted for. Immediately, like before even people knew what they were voting for, there were ideas. So because you're attached to your either side of the fence, well, it means that you can argue, because essentially a lot of the time what happens is if I'm a Remainer, for example, I'm not gonna really listen to what you're saying. Like I've got my idea, I've got my belief of what I think it should be. There might be arguments against it, but you know what? You're just saying that because you're like this or you're like that. So whatever. So I'm gonna argue it because I've made an identity out of my opinion, and to make my identity valid, I need to argue with you who is against my identity. So it validates your identity if you argue. If you transcend that, there's no real argument. It's just what's the best solution, right? There's no identities around it. There's no, you're Leaver, you're Remainer. It's just, what are we gonna do? What's the best thing to do? Another thing you see is, like, a lot of the time with social media social media potentially could have set us back a lot, like a long time, in terms of developing and evolving. The reason why I say that is because it makes the identities you create more validated. It validates your identities more, because you put your identity out there, whatever that might be. And remember, there's only a few kind of respected identities, or kind of identities that are popular. So it's like, you know, the fitness person, or the funny person, or, you know, the person that posts up motivational stuff or whatever. There's a few identities you can fit into, and you decide, okay, cool, I want to go for that identity or that identity, and then you post up pictures that pertain to that, right? And then you get immediate validation for your identity from all these people post it up, or people that aspire to have your identity, or whatever, or just like it, or whatever, maybe just like you, and you get validation for it. So it makes you go within more. It makes you it makes you go within your ego more, because you're getting this identity boosted and validated constantly. So social media can really get you into it. You know, and occasionally you'll see, and all right, so there's tricky things that Having Stage does as well. So occasionally what you'll see is someone will say, I'm not really into this model stuff. You know, there's a lot of models. I'm not really into this model stuff anymore. Like, it's not real, blah, blah, blah. So they expose that identity, you know, and some of the identities are really obvious as well. But they'll expose it and they'll say, you know what, I'm not going to do this because it's fake, which is implying you shouldn't do it, because if you do it, you're kind of being fake as well. You know, influencers and stuff like this. But then they'll kind of, you know, repent from that, and they'll say, oh, you know, I'm just going to post up videos 100% me, 100% honest, and all that kind of stuff. And that's good, actually. That's a step forward. But then what happens is, if that gets popular, some people will say, oh, wait, that's popular, they're doing that, so I'm going to do that. So again, you're trying to get the validation. You're trying to have an identity. It's just a matter of picking what identity is best for you. What identity is going to get the best acceptance or the best validation or whatever, and that's what you tend to pick. If you look at teenagers, they literally do that. Like, they'll go through stages of, you know, maybe being a goth, or maybe being, you know, into hip hop, or maybe this and maybe that, you know, and maybe they're seen as posers or whatever. But it's because they're literally trying out identities, and they want to pick one that is going to give them the most happiness, or the most validation, or the most completion. They think they need to pick one, they need to find one, you know, when they're 14 or 15 or whatever. Oh, maybe I'm a goth. Yeah, you know what? I'm a goth. That's what I am. Mum, get the black lipstick and like the hair dye and all that. Like, I'm a goth now. What? You don't like goths? Man, we don't like you. Like, people really get entrenched into their identities, and there's now the internet's just littered with them anyway. Like, there's so many identities to pick from. It's crazy. So many communicate, and really, it's just a want for completion. It's a want for community. It's a want for, community is a good word. Commune with someone. You want to commune with everyone. That's what you want, really. But you're just not sure how to do it. And if you think about it, like, we're really encouraged to be in this having stage from early. Like, your parents tell you, oh, you need to be this. Like, you might come to your parents and go, oh, I really got a dream of like being, whatever. Being an astronaut or something like that. And your parents go, all right, listen, now you're old enough, we gotta have this talk. People are not really astronauts. People don't really become astronauts like that. Like, so you need to just think about what job you can get where you can get some money and raise your kids and do all that kind of stuff. You really need to think about it, son. So what does that do? That tells a kid that, what I actually am is not enough. I need to be what they define as a good human being. So people's goals change as well. So it could be, I know I've kind of done that one already, but whatever society's told you that you need to do, that can really get imprinted in your head, and you could think like, oh shit, that's I need to do that. That's what I need to do. So for the kid who wants to be an astronaut, they're told that that's not good enough, and they need to become something else. And because that's not them, whatever your parents told you that you need to be, that might not be you. It creates a real conflict, because now whatever is you is bad. Whatever is you is bad, right? Because that's what you've been taught. That's what you've been taught. So the real you really kind of have to get that down there, all in you, so that you can feel the tension of it. It's not even funny. Well, you can feel the tension of it when it tries to come up. You're like, no. That's why everyone's so tense all the time. No one breathes through their belly. Like, gotta keep it down there. Gotta be a good human. I'm a good human. So you gotta do that. So, and it really messes with your mental health and your body and everything, actually. Just shoving it down. So, but you're taught that from an early age, and that's reinforced by, media, TV, school, your friends, everything, because everyone's doing it. Like, a good example is like, basically at this stage, at the having stage, you can be hijacked very easily because you're looking for a way out. So if we go back to the example of a maze, it's like someone coming out of nowhere and saying to you, listen, I've got it. I've just escaped. I've got a way out. And this is the way out. Just watch this. So you watch it. You're watching an advert. Maybe it's for a car. So car is just somewhere. It's a machine. It gets you somewhere faster. That's what the car does. That's the whole purpose of the car. But in the advert, you see everyone. You see like a guy, and he's got his family, and everyone's running to the car. It's like it's a cool, what do you call it? Not station wagon, the SUV or whatever. It's a cool thing. It's and everyone's happy, and look, high fiving the kids. This looks great. This is the way out. It's that way, yeah. And then you go that way, and it's the same bullshit. It's just that what he does is he's charged you for it now. So he's told you, listen, okay, so you watch the advert. That's great. So you just need to buy this car and then go that way, and then you're out. You'll get out. Don't worry. Look how great it was. Those people are out. I showed you them. They were out. So why wouldn't you? So you buy the car, you spend your money that you've made trying to get out in the first place, and then you drive it, and you realize, oh shit, that was the same shit. Like, what are you talking about? So that was the same stuff that just happened to you. So you're still in the maze. So that's another thing that can happen, is that because of your lack of completion and because you're in the having stage and you feel you need to have something, you could easily be hijacked, very easily be hijacked, right? So you could get hijacked by a political party. How many times does a president or a prime minister, how many times do they say, vote for me and everything's going to change, your life's going to be great, vote for me? And you know what, I don't normally vote, but this guy, he's all right. I think he might just help us out of this maze. Because that's what you're looking for. You're looking for someone to lead you out of the darkness, out of the maze, right? So you're looking for someone to lead you because you don't know the way. So you need someone to lead you, right? So if someone comes along and says, I've got all the answers, you know what, it's the economy. It's a bloody economy, innit? That's what it is. The reason you're here and the reason you feel shit is because of the economy. That's what it is. So if you get me involved, if you let me lead you, I'll sort the economy out, and then if I sort the economy out, or when I sort the economy out, you'll be sorted. That's what that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying to us. That, like, something that has no relevance to our internal being, like, at all. It barely has any relevance to our external being, in fact. But they'll say, oh yeah, once we sort this out, you'll be sorted. Come on, man. Even if they literally just said to you, like, you personally, I'm going to come to your house if I get your vote, and I'm going to give you money, and I'm going to get you the best job you can get, I'm going to get you the best wife you can get, I'm going to get you all that. Still, you're not going to be out. You know what I mean? Because imagine they did that to, like, Robin Williams or someone. He killed himself. He had all that. He killed himself, right? So it doesn't guarantee you a way out. It doesn't guarantee you completion, even if you get all that stuff. Even if the politician says to you, I'll specifically sort your life out, it still doesn't get you anywhere. The only way politics has a relevance is because it's more of even an admin role, because basically you need someone who's gonna not think from having, actually, because if you're thinking from having and you're a politician, you're trying to become a prime minister, because your journey or your route that you've taken on the maze is that once I become prime minister, I'm going to be sorted. I'm going to be complete. That's my way. That's my way out. You know, the prime minister, the prime minister or whoever wants to get into power that much, really what they're saying is that my way out is me going down this prime minister route, right? And but for me to do that, I need to convince you that I'm gonna help you. So it's so messed up. So I'm gonna convince you that I want to help you, because if I want to help you, I'm gonna get out. That's what I believe. I believe that, right? So that's the quest for power. That's what the quest for power is. I feel I'm basically gonna sell you lot out, but I'm gonna convince you that I'm not. And by doing that, I'm gonna get out myself, right? So you should be happy for me. I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna be happy, even if you're not. But even with that, we see it doesn't work at all. It leads you to more problems as if you're being a prime minister, actually. I can't imagine it's, you know, that's got to be the most stressful job anyway. But it's just you're willing to do it because you believe that having that much fame and power will get you out of this matrix, get you out of this maze, right? So it's so tricky, so tricky. Anyway, so, you know, and then another final point is that the final point is that also it can get co-opted by, you know, new agey or spiritual stuff. So people think that, you know, if so say you haven't gone into being, say you haven't gone past the having stage, right? Anything you do within that is an attempt to get out of it, right? So even if you hear about people that are out of it, that are into spirituality, and maybe they really are, maybe they're out of it, right? But you hear about it. So you think that all I've got to do is do the shit that they're doing. So I've got to, you know, oh, okay, so what can I do? Okay, so new age crystals. Okay, cool. Let me new age stuff. That sounds cool. So I'm gonna get some crystals. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna sort out my chakras, I'm gonna all that kind of stuff. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's just that rather than maybe having a negative effect on the people around you and on yourself, probably, if you get into the new age stuff or the spiritual stuff, say you become a vegan, it's probably going to be good for you, and it to a certain extent it will probably be good for society. It's just people don't like it because, again, it's the same thing. It's a dogmatic belief. It's like you're just saying that this is the best way to be, this is the best identity to have. It's just a battle of identities. That's what it comes down to. And the spiritual new age kind of thing is not exempt from that at all. It's just that it's a better one it's a better one in that has a better effect maybe on the environment, and on yourself as well, potentially, right? So you're doing stuff, maybe you're meditating, and maybe you're, you know, being a vegan and all that, so your impact on the world is better. So I'm not saying it's not a good thing to do, but it's still an identity. It's still, you know, if you're saying you're woke, the rule of thumb is like, if you're telling people what you are, you're trying to validate your identity, right? So if you're trying to validate it, it means that you've got an identity to validate, right? So you're not free. You haven't transcended it, right? You're still looking for an identity. It's probably a good identity to get into, to help you transcend it. But you're gonna have to drop it at some point, is the thing. So how do you get out of the maze? What's the third stage? So the third stage, you say, is what's it called? So it can either be, I guess, I just made it up, so I'm still working on it. But I think it exists anyway. I'm just probably reciting it terribly. But it's either I think it's trans having, or post having, or being. So let's use the word being, just because it's easier. So if you're in being, it basically means that you haven't reverted, you haven't gone back to being a kid or being a lion, but what you've realized is that you don't need to go to the maze to become you. You are you. You're complete, right? And not only that, the reason why it's different from the pre stuff, from being a kid, is that you've experienced the having stage, right? And you know what it is. And you know why, because there's you can pick certain elements that you probably need, like you need money, or you need this or whatever. You need it to survive, but it's just you seeing things for what they are, rather than thinking any of these things can lead you to salvation or to you know, a way out of the maze. So you're seeing it, for what it is. And obviously, if you're pre, you don't even know it exists. So that's dangerous, because you can be hijacked. If you're transit, you know when someone is trying to hijack you specifically, because you've done it. Like you've maybe been hijacked. You've definitely been hijacked at some point. So you're aware of it. You're aware what's good, what it is. You're seeing it for what it is, rather than looking for a way out. You're not even going in the maze. You're like, that's the way out. That's the way out. You're not going in the maze. You're not even attempting. Like you've done the maze. You haven't escaped. You've just, like, or maybe you could say you found a way out. I don't know what's the best analogy. I don't know. But you're not even attempting the maze. Like, you're not involved. Right? You're walking past it. You're walking alongside it. Yeah, that's a good one. You're walking alongside it rather than, being in the maze. And what you realize is that actually the maze is a complete creation. There's no maze. There is no maze. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's thinking that they have to do this, and they have to create an identity, and they have to work this out and work that out and sort their head out and do this. Actually, if you've got psychological issues, you probably should work some stuff out in that way. But what I'm saying is that you realize that you're complete as you are. You are the lion, you are the man, you're the woman, or the whatever. You are that. You are that. There's nothing else you can be. It's foolish to even try and be something else, because you are what you are. You know what I mean? And what that does is it means that you live from a state of being. So if you think about it, in the having stage, everything you were doing was to get out of the having stage. Now, you're not trying to get out of anywhere. So you can enjoy the moment. You can enjoy the present moment. You can enjoy being, right? So what this means is that you don't really get attached to ideologies. You may, obviously, you're gonna see. I like to think about stuff. Sometimes, I look into things and whatever, but you don't have to be attached to any one way of thinking. Like, you don't. You can say, oh, okay, that's an interesting point. That's an interesting point. Whatever. But there's no ism. There's only youism. There's only you. That's it. Right? So what, so you're not looking for an identity. You're not looking for that. So because of that, you can be in being, right? And also it's like there's not really much fear, because fear really only comes about from or anxiety and stuff like that. They come about because you, as a human, you're fragmented. So what you say, there's certain things you hate about yourself, right? There's certain things you don't like about yourself, where you say, oh no, that's not me, and you have an idea of what you should be, right? So there's all these levels of things that you don't like. So maybe it could be you're not masculine enough, or you're not feminine enough, or you don't think you're a good mom, or you don't think you're a good dad, or you don't think you're successful. A lot of people get imposter syndrome and stuff like that. And it's really, the anxiety comes from the idea of what you should be and what you should be feeling to what you're feeling. And because what you're feeling is not what you think it should be, that causes anxiety, causes fear. So obviously, if you close that gap and you say, whatever I'm feeling is valid, whatever I am is completely valid, and it's what I am. There's no should be this or should be that. So because you close that gap, there's not really much anxiety. There might be still some in the body somewhere, whatever, but you're not generating it. Like, it's for all intents and purposes, it's kind of gone, just because of the view now that you have of the world. So all that is gone. So basically, it means that you're free. That's true freeness, because you're not held by what you should be, right? So if you're not held by what you should be, then you're completely free to be whatever you are. Right? And that doesn't mean, again, choosing an identity, being free you are free to choose an identity. You can do that, but that's not real freedom, right? Because once you go into that identity, you have to follow those rules. Otherwise, you're not that identity. Right? So real freedom is a dismissing of all identities for yourself, and embracing whatever it is you are. And the important thing is that you don't know really what you are. You can't know what you are. You can't have what you are. You can just be what you are. And that's what being is, right? You can only be what you are. That's it, right? So that isn't to say that that's to limit you or anything like that. No, that's to expand you, because you're not tied to anything. You're not tied to any point of view. You're not tied to any way of being. You are just being. And that is the step up. That is the escape route from the maze, or that's, or the solution to that strategy, is that you never play the game in the first place. You never play it in the first place. And what you might say is like, oh, but wait a minute, if I'm just here being whatever, then how am I going to make money? Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with my life? And the point is that you're aware of all these things. Like, if you're a kid, and you're not aware that you need to make money, or that you need to eat nutritiously or whatever, then obviously that's going to mess you up. But you're not a kid. The point is, you know these things. You're post having, right? So you know all these things that you need to do to survive. You know all that. You've got your survival skills. You've got all the stuff you need. So you're aware of what you need to do. It's just that you don't make an identity out of it. And then you'll say, oh, but I want to be successful. But again, that's an identity. You want to be successful because you want to feel free. So what we're saying is that instead of going all that, you've probably already tried anyway. Instead of doing all that shit again, why not just say, I'm free? Once you say I'm free, and once you get into being, then you can do whatever you want to do. Comes from you. Like, it's real. Do you know what I'm saying? And you might, like, people get scared because they're like, oh, but I'm used to this kind of lifestyle. But really, all the lifestyle, the comfortable lifestyle and all that, it just gives you comfort in the maze. Right? So it's just like, to get through the maze, maybe you're sitting in a nice chair or you got a nice bed or something like that. That's all it is, really. So it's not a destination, like, and there's no reason why you can't even have a comfortable lifestyle and be a being. Like, there's no reason, because you can look at it from a more strategic point of view. So you can say, okay, maybe I'll work like crazy, or maybe I'll do this, or maybe I'll do that, and I'll save up enough money, and you create a plan where, like, you know, you don't need to work as much, and or you might structure your life in a way where you can do things completely from being most of the time, and then maybe some of the time you have to work, or you have to do this or whatever. Like, there's ways you can do it. Do you know what I'm saying? But the important thing is that you always, whatever you do, whether you're flipping burgers or whether you're a stockbroker or whatever, you're doing it from a place of being. And people get scared because if you come from a place of being, it means that you have to drop all the identities that you've convinced yourself of all your life. You know what I'm saying? So all the identities you convince yourself of that you need all your life, you've now got to drop that. So you've attached yourself so strong, and that's why it's hard to let go of them, because you've attached yourself so strong. So, and again, like with religion or something like that, if you think about it, like, you've just been indoctrinated with an ideology from birth, and we've all been indoctrinated with some ideology from really young. But religious people will tend to hold on to it much tighter because, you know, they've had it from such an early age. So it feels like it's part of their being, because every time they think, you know, there's some kind of thought of religion in there, just because the thought has been powered up so much, and it's almost become a part of how their brain just works. So, you know, they go to God, and it's not a bad thing to be religious at all. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of truth to it. But even that, if you look at it, like, it's very possible to look at the Bible in how I believe it was intended anyway. It's like more symbolic point of view, and, you know, as you know, a philosophy almost, and as a description of something that can't be described. That's how I see the Bible. But if you're in a having stage, you want to have that. You want to be religious. You get it? You want to be religious, right? So you adopt everything wholly, like, literally. So yeah, there was Adam and Eve. Yeah, God did create the world in 7 days. All this kind of stuff. You believe it literally because you want to have it. You want that to be a part of you so bad, because you think that it's going to offer you a way out. It's going to offer you salvation. But actually, salvation comes, and it's to be honest, it's the same sacrifice everyone has to make when you're in a having stage. Whether you're religious, whether you believe money is everything, whether you believe family is everything, whatever you believe, you have to drop it, and then you have to trust that whatever's real is going to be real within you anyway. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, even when you're in being, it's just that your perception is different. So money is still important, but only to the extent where it helps you survive. It's not important to your identity, because you haven't got an identity once you're in being, right? So family is important, you know what I'm saying? But you don't necessarily expect them to be perfect, for example. You know, when you're in being, you accept them for what they are, right? So that means that there's no conflict, there's no, you know, resentment or whatever. Even if they were evil to you when you were a kid, you're like, okay, that's what they are. There's nothing I can do, because you're not expecting anything from them. You're not expecting this kind of perfect family or whatever. But I mean, that's a deep one, because it can create issues that you then need to sort out. But even then, it's like, you can look at it like, okay, it is what it is. It happened, and I need to sort that out. So you need to be able to drop what your view of these things are and look at it from a real being point of view, right? And it might mean that you lose some friends, but anything you lose, where if you transcend having, anything you lose, you never had in the first place, right? So the friend that is only friends with you because you were into the same stuff, and, you know, you I don't know, you both love football or something like that. If he then isn't your friend because you're no longer as passionate about football or as, you know, into it as before, then he was never really your friend. He was just a friend of anyone that liked football. You know what I'm saying? Same thing if with your wife or your girlfriend or whatever, say it was just, I don't know, maybe it was just a sexual thing. You thought that, You know, when I get someone to have crazy sex with me, um, I'm gonna be complete, and that's, you know, that's what I need, and blah blah blah. Once you transcend and you realize, oh, okay, I don't need that to be complete. So do I even like this person? If you like the person, if you really did, then you'd stay. You'd stay there because they give you good experiences. You love being with them, whatever it is. But if it was just sex, then that will be exposed. Like everything gets exposed, and that's, you might say, oh, that's a downside, and you know, I've spent so long creating my life and all this kind of stuff. You might say that's the downside, but it's, to me, it's almost a good side because you're getting away from all the bullshit, really. You know, and you're just, you know, you're just getting into being. And it's so important. Like if we can all do it, I really believe like the world would just be a completely different place. Like it would be, you know, really amazing, like loving, free place. Like I don't know how the structure would be, how it would look or whatever, but it could be a similar structure. So it could be a similar structure. Like, and that's another thing. Is like a lot of people think that it needs to, you know, we just need to find the right idea and the right, you know, ism. Like we need the right communism or the right capitalism. Not really. Most of these things can work if the level of consciousness has changed. So, for example, capitalism can easily work if we didn't think that us making enough money, us putting so much importance on money, for example, or success or whatever, if it wasn't as important as we make it, because it's not as important as we make it, if it was literally what it should be in definition, which is just an opportunity where people can make money, where people are free to climb up social ladders, to, you know, to start businesses if they want, all that kind of stuff. Like at its core, it would work, but it takes us to have a certain consciousness to get the best out of it. You know what I mean? So how it's manifested, because our level of consciousness society-wide is so low, how it's manifested is that we don't mind screwing people over for business deals, or we don't mind, you know, we're jealous of people that are doing better than us, or you know, or we're like, oh, why can't I do any better? And you know, we kind of judge ourselves by that standard. And really, that's a, you know, it's really like the worst way it could be, because whatever the system is, it just depends on what your consciousness is as a society. Because as you can see, like it's getting the, like there's certain societies in the world where it's looking better, like it's looking more evolved. So a lot of Scandinavian countries, a lot of people cite them to say, oh yeah, that's a standard or whatever, or they're the forward thinkers. But if you look at them, it's like, you know, their happiness levels are a lot higher, you know, and it's not necessarily because they've adopted some crazy system where everyone's different. No, it's not that. It's just that their consciousness levels are much higher. That they're more humble people. They've got humility. They're more willing to help. Like all this kind of stuff. So, you know, so what happens then is that if you've got a society like that, that society or that consciousness gets what they deserve. So the reason why, like in England and America and places like this, other European countries, is everyone's at war, is because our consciousness level is so low that like we get, no, that's not exactly what I want to say. The reason why we get bad policies and bad laws and you know, bad product, what do you call it, bad budgets, or budgets that benefit the rich rather than the poor and all this kind of stuff, is because we get what we deserve. Because we're at a certain level of consciousness, this is what we want, we demand this. So it's like, you know, it's like media, like you're gonna get the TV programs of your consciousness level. So if you're, you know, if violence and, you know, sexual violence and all this kind of stuff excites you, and that's what there's demand for, you're going to get more of that, because we're in a capitalist society. Capitalism just reflects what society is. right? So if that's the call that you want more violent films and you want this and you want that, then you're gonna get that, right? If the society wanted more kind of thought-provoking stuff and art house and all this kind of stuff, you'd get more of that. So it's not necessarily that capitalism is bad. Well, you could say we are bad, but we're not. It's just that we're not on a certain consciousness level where we're demanding these kind of things. So if we were, for example, I think in Sweden or one of these countries, they tax them like, I think they tax everyone like 30% at least, but they've got, you know, free education, they've got like free university education and free education, free healthcare, all this kind of stuff, all these benefits. So really it just comes down to a thing of, if you had the consciousness where you were like voting for everyone, right? So you're voting for, rather than saying, I'm going to vote for the person who's going to help my identity and my situation, I'm going to vote for the best thing for society. Even if that little shift in consciousness, that will change everything. If everyone voted for the majority of society rather than voting for themselves or their families, you would see such a massive change, like in terms of policy, and in terms of, you know, happiness, and that essentially is what is happening. It's starting to happen. So it's not a thing where the system needs to be changed. It's we need to be changed. Like individually, we need not change, but we need to be who we are, right? We need to have that compassion. We need to have that empathy. We need to stop chasing our tails and stop running around this bloody maze. And that's it, really. So I think it's so important, because what we're doing now is we're, you know, it's starting to change. So I hope it continues. But what we're doing is we're placing money at the forefront of everything. So as in, we don't mind sacrificing people's lives, or, you know, the environment or this or that for money. So the logical conclusion to that is we're going to sacrifice the world for money, which is to say we're going to sacrifice having for what we actually have. So the idea of having more, we're sacrificing that for what we have. What we have is everything. We're in the Garden of Eden, right? But we don't see it. We don't realize it. So we're willing to sacrifice, willing to burn that Garden of Eden down just for the promise that we could have another Garden of Eden. And it's crazy. But anyway, get out of the maze. Get out of the maze, man.